So we've established that people who regularly eat fiber-rich foods like fruit, vegetables, beans, whole grains, are often reported to be healthier than those who do not, and have lower risks of some diseases than those who do not. And of course, those foods have many other nutrients that could be contributing to that effect, but fiber does deserve some of the credit. So how are fibers classified? The book sorts fibers into two categories, soluble fibers and insoluble fibers. Please note this is not a perfect system because many fibers possess both the soluble and insoluble characteristics, and many high fiber foods do contain both soluble and insoluble fibers, but both of these are very important. So soluble fibers are those that would readily dissolve in water, become viscous, and examples of these types of fibers would be those in oats, barley, legumes, citrus fruits, okra. So in the body, soluble fibers are known for certain benefits. So these are a list of soluble fibers right here. So here you have barley, oats, oat bran, rye, fruits like apples and citrus fruits, legumes, young green peas, seaweed, seeds and husks, many vegetables, and also fibers used as food additives are classified as soluble. So soluble fibers are associated with these actions in the body. One really well-known benefit of consuming fiber is to lower blood cholesterol by binding bile. We'll talk about the details of that in a little bit. Fibers also slow glucose absorption. So the more fiber is in something that you're eating, the slower that glucose is going to be absorbed into the bloodstream. And this is the health benefit associated with this, the lower risk of diabetes, is because of this reason. Soluble fibers also slow the transit of food through the upper GI tract. They hold moisture in stools, softening them. They yield small fat molecules after fermentation in the colon that the colon can use for energy. So recall from the chapter on digestion that in our colon, and there's a lot of healthy bacteria, and those bacteria ferment fibers, and then they produce byproducts like short chain fatty acids. They can use those for energy in the colon, and those also can be helpful to lower the risk of colon and rectal cancer. They're seen to have a protective effect. And finally, fiber, since it's mostly indigestible, does increase satiety. So this can help with weight management. So let's talk about, really quickly, let's talk about fiber's role in lowering blood cholesterol by binding bile. So this diagram here shows how soluble fiber has health benefits in the sense that it reduces cholesterol. So typically in the normal cycle, the liver uses blood cholesterol in order to make bile. The liver kind of acts like a vacuum cleaner. It sucks cholesterol up from the blood, and then it uses it to make bile, sends the bile to the gallbladder, and then the gallbladder sends bile to the intestine where it emulsifies fats in digestion. Now at this point, this is where the high fiber diet and the low fiber diet differ. So in the low fiber diet, very little bile is excreted because it doesn't get bound up in fiber. So much of the cholesterol from the bile is reabsorbed in the blood, and the liver recycles that bile. But in the case of the high fiber diet, let's look what happens. Of course, the liver again sucks up the blood cholesterol in order to create bile. The gallbladder stores it, it's used in digestion, and after it's aided in digestion, it also binds to fiber. So in the intestine, some of the cholesterol in the matrix of the bile associates with the fiber, and the fiber and bile are excreted out of the body in the feces. So a little of the cholesterol makes it back into the bloodstream and is reabsorbed in the blood, but when the liver makes new bile, it needs to use new cholesterol from the blood. So in that way, a high fiber diet will help lower cholesterol because more cholesterol is carried out of the body in the fiber as bile. So let's go back to our fiber chart of soluble and insoluble fibers. So we've talked about soluble fiber. So what about insoluble fiber? So insoluble fiber is the type of fiber found in brown rice, fruits, also in legumes, seeds, some vegetables like cabbage, carrots, Brussels sprouts, wheat bran. It's in whole grains, and it's also used as food additives at times as well. So insoluble fibers, again, are the non-viscous. They're less fermentable, whereas the soluble are the viscous fibers. So what are some of the benefits of insoluble fibers? So insoluble fibers increase stool density, so they're going to speed fecal passage through the colon, just making it easier to go. So in this way, they alleviate constipation. They also, sort of related to an increase in satiety, they provide bulk and feelings of fullness. And because of this, these probable health benefits occur. So because the fiber is increasing stool density and alleviating constipation, stools are sitting in the colon for less time than they would normally. So this lowers a person's risk of colon and rectal cancer, but also their risk of hemorrhoids, appendicitis, again, because that stool doesn't have as much time to back up into the colon, maybe transmitting some harmful bacteria, and also of diverticulosis. Now, diverticular disease, is when small polyps occur in the colon, and when those polyps get infected and inflamed, we have diverticulosis. So increasing the stool density and speeding the passage of stool through the colon is really, really helpful in these ways. So this image is in your textbook, and this summarizes sources of soluble, insoluble fiber, and the health benefits.